Hello and welcome. Today I've got for you the Epomaker TH80 Pro. This is a 75% hot swappable mechanical switch keyboard from Epomaker or Epomaker. I'm not sure quite how to pronounce it. So we're going to look at this keyboard here. Let's get it unboxed. We'll talk about all the accessories and everything that's included in this device. But we're going to look at this budget offering, considering that keyboard prices have gone sky high. We're looking at $300, $400, $500 and even higher for mechanical keyboards. And the more custom you get, the more prices go up. But we'll look at something that's a more budget oriented and a readily available option such as this from Epomaker directly in the US or from a reseller like Amazon or even AliExpress. See what $100 gets you into the mechanical keyboard space. Let's begin by taking a look around the keyboard here. So beginning with this keyboard, we've got a few different highlighted keycaps here, a little bit of a nice contrast going. We have some artisan keycaps here, such as this on the left shift key. And of course, at the top right here, we have a jog dial. Pressing and depressing this will mute and unmute your audio. And of course, you've got its notch, so you can actually feel it and adjust more granularly the audio for your PC. That said, though, nothing much on the left-hand side, nor on the right. The top holds a singular USB Type-C port that's used for charging, for wired connectivity operation, and of course, all firmware updates must be done in wired mode using the supplied USB Type-C cable that comes with this keyboard. On the rear, we've got these two different level adjustments here for height. We'll show that in just a moment. A wireless and wired mode toggle switch, and of course, a housing here where you can slip in the USB dongle that is used for 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi connectivity for this particular device. We also have some nice rubber padding here that keeps it from slipping too much off of the table, and they seem to work quite well. There's two levels of height adjustment on this keyboard. So the first one here will give you a smaller height, and of course you can flip it out further. It locks into place and you've got a full height adjustment for this particular keyboard, and that's provided on both sides. In addition, Epomaker has been kind enough to bundle along a few spare switches. These are the pink flamingo switches. These are about 35 grams of force for actuation and bottom out at 60 grams of force. Very nice linear switches for typing, custom switches from Epomaker based on Gateron Pro switches. These are 3-pin switches. This keyboard, of course, supports hot swappable switches, and you can use either 3 or 5-pin switches. These, of course, have south-facing LEDs, so you get very nice illumination around the keycaps. Of course, these are not pudding keycaps or anything like that. That will allow a lot of the light through. You'll, in fact, see the light around these keycaps. Additional thing to mention about these keycaps here are that these keycaps are double-shot PBT keycaps with dye-sub printing, which means you won't get that shiny effect that you get from finger oils after extended use of this keyboard, and you won't also get these legends that are printed onto the keys wearing off as easily. Also included in the box by Epomaker is a keycap puller and a switch puller. So nice to see that a tool like this is provided. It allows you to service device and truly have all of the tools you need for a hot swappable keyboard such as this. Finally, as I mentioned, a braided USB Type-C cable is provided here. It's very nice, looks visually stunning, and the white gives it a nice matching aesthetic with the white base keyboard. Quickly, the characteristics of these flamingo switches. These are based on the Gateron Pro switches, and these allow you to have a 35 grams of force minimum with a bottom out force of 60 grams max. These sound great for typing, and they're guaranteed for about 100 million keystrokes, which is absolutely fantastic. These are 3-pin, although this keyboard supports 3 and 5-pin hot swappable keys. Or switches, excuse me. That means you have certainly a lot of different options here for replacing these switches. And because we're talking about Epomaker here being more of a budget-oriented brand, certainly that doesn't mean that we're compromising on value or quality. It's a quality budget brand, I would say. You have a lot of different switch options to choose from. Just for about $20 to $30 or so, you can often swap out all the different switches for this keyboard, particularly at a 75% size, to have a different type of typing experience, or if you're interested in trying a different set of switch here. As you can see on the right here, the other switch that they offer is a tactile custom switch. I believe it's called the Budge Rigger, and that's a much more 55 grams of force. So if you're really into heavy typing, or if you like to really bottom out or be close to bottom out when you have to apply a lot of initial force, you can see the characteristics in the charts there. You'll certainly get a variety of different different switches here. And just to show here, just a quick look at the Epomaker website in the US, you can get a lot of different switch sets here. And as I said, because they're quite inexpensive, that means you can really swap out your keyboard experience, and you can use the chassis here as a keyboard for a long time to come, swapping out a few different sets until you find the perfect switch that gives you the best typing experience that you are looking for. Connectivity on the TH80 Pro is handled by three different ways. You have wired operation using the supplied USB Type-C cable here. You have a 2.4 gigahertz wireless option using the supplied dongle that slips neatly into the housing on the bottom of the keyboard for quick and easy storage so you don't lose it. And of course, third, with Bluetooth using the different options here on the keyboard. So to toggle yourself into the connectivity mode, you would hold function here and press 1, 2, or 3 for the three different Bluetooth connectivity and pairing. So if I hold down, for example, function +1 for 3 seconds, we'll see here that this key starts to blink, which means it is now in Bluetooth pairing mode for the first option. Similarly, function +2 and 3 will allow you to switch into pairing for 3 additional devices simultaneously. And of course, function 4 will allow you to slip into the wireless connectivity mode using the 2.4 gigahertz dongle on your particular connected PC. To get the wired connectivity to work, you'll need to toggle the switch here, which controls wireless and wired connectivity. All right, next we'll show you how to actually swap out some of these keys. So with this supply tool here, this one here is the keycap puller on this side with the 2 keys. On the right hand side is the switch puller. Let's first pull one of these keys here and we'll show you how to swap out the keycaps. All right, we'll take our tool here, we'll slip it over the keycap like so. We'll let it fit in like this. You can see here, it should grip the keycap underneath. And then we pull up, straight up, and we'll get our keycap here. Be sure that you don't yank on the keys. They should be pulled straight up. Otherwise, you can damage the stems of the switches here, or alternatively, you can damage some other component. These are quite sensitive. So be very careful that you make sure that the tool is gripping the keys like this and you're pulling exactly vertically as not to damage the key. So we'll take out our Alt key here, and just for fun, we'll swap it with this key. This is the Mac equivalent. And again, when you're replacing these keys, make sure that you're doing it vertically so that you're not damaging the keycaps and you're not bending the stems or damaging them otherwise on the switches themselves. So place it on the switch here like this, and we'll press down, and you'll see here that we've swapped the keycap quite easily. Now, as I was alluding to earlier, these are double shot PBT keycaps, so that means they won't get oily for fingerprints over time. And also because they're double shot PBT, that means they're not going to wear out. This print here will not wear for an extended amount of time, as opposed to lesser ABS or other materials that may be used on more budget-oriented keyboards or budget-oriented offerings. Next thing we'll show is how to pull out one of these switches here. So again, let's pop off our keycap. For the switches, because these are north-south facing switches, make sure you consult the guide for your keyboard so you know if you're going to pull out like this or if you're going to pull out vertically. In this case, these pink flamingo switches have grasp holes, as you want to call them, grips, I guess, from top to bottom, north-south. So you want to grip the switches like this, and always pull the switches straight up. Here we go. And if we see here, here's the switch. These are the pink flamingo switches, about 35 grams of force, I believe, for activation. So that means you're getting a good linear switch here for typing. I find the linear switches to be the best for most people. Be very careful when you replace these switches. These pens are quite sensitive and they're very easily bent. You'll need to make sure that you place the key or the switch correctly into the pins. And of course, this keyboard can support 3 and 5 pin switches. These here are 3 pin by default. So be sure you get the right type of switch and you align these pins correctly, because these pins are quite easy to bend and damage. If you bend them, bending them back and forth can quite easily cause them to break. I find the best way to replace these switches is to pull them into the socket. Once they're placed in the socket, gently just press them down, and you'll hear that snap, which means they've locked into place and you've activated your switch again. You should press it down to make sure that you're not getting any wobble before you replace the keycap. The TH80 Pro has full RGB on board. You can activate those by pressing the keys here. And of course, these modes can be adjusted. You can adjust between the 4 different levels of provided here. Pressing up and down will turn off the brightness or adjust the brightness levels. You'll get 1, 2, 3, and finally 4 levels of brightness here. It does get quite bright. In addition, you also have the right and left keys here. So function plus left and function plus right will allow you to toggle between the different modes here that are built into this keyboard. You can additionally press function P to toggle between the different colors that you want to use for the different effects. And of course, you can press function plus backslash or the pipe symbol here to change between the different RGB modes. So there's quite a few different modes here, I believe 18 altogether, and these can also be controlled through the software that we'll look at in just a moment. All right, now let's have a look here at the software that's applied or supplied by Epomaker for this keyboard and its configuration. So when we launch this software here, we've got a few different settings here. We've got a main FN setting tab, which determines the additional functions that are mapped to these keyboards. Plus, there's also a macro, so you can create new macros to launch specific sets of applications or run particular actions. There's also some lighting controls for the RGB, and you can adjust the speed and the brightness of the different cycling of the different modes. That's very nice to see. And of course, you can go here to share, and this will allow you to see all different keycaps and different setups that other people have shared perhaps, and lighting configurations that they've mapped. So for example, blue and orange keys or different types of lighting schemes to help customize your keyboard. You can, of course, set up a cloud account with Epomaker to help save your settings. So if you use multiple devices or multiple laptops, your configurations and settings here will carry over using their cloud account. And of course, you have an about page here. We're seeing the app version that's for this application. Plus, there's an firmware version. Keep in mind, though, that the firmware upgrade can only be done in a wired mode. So you'll need to connect the supplied and braided USB Type-C cable in order to run the firmware upgrade for this device. You can also minimize this software to the tray. So if you don't want to close it, but you want to come in here often, customize or set up your new macros, etc., you can do that. You can also set it to close so that when you close this window here, it automatically closes the software for the driver. You can also choose a language here, and you can force the software to start up with Windows when you launch. Now, let's head back to the main settings here. We'll see what these things can do. So as you click these keys here, you'll get a description of what these keys are. And if you click on some of these keys here, for example, up, down, left, right arrow, you'll see here that you have the option here to map these media functions. You can also map mouse behaviors to these keys. But if you want to look essentially at how some of these keys are mapped, you'll have to look at these layers. So there's multiple layers of functional configurations on the keyboard. So if I go to layer 2 here, it'll load my layer 2 settings, and I can see that if I click on layer 2 and go to the right arrow key, the left arrow key, there's additional a layer 3 as well. So if you go to these layers, you can set up multiple different mappings for these keys, and you can save different layers. These can also be switched to if you have certain, for example, setups for a certain application where you have certain key commands that map to functions for that particular application. You can set up 3 different layers of functions on your keyboard, and then you can switch between them using a combination of keys to map between those 3 things. Now, by default here, let's go over to function settings. I want to highlight a couple of things here. If you look at these function keys, you also see that between or beyond F1, F2, etc. And for whatever reason here, I think this is one particular issue where the function keys, actually the shadows are not lining up with the position of the keys here. Perhaps that's a bug. I'm not quite sure why, but if you see here, F1 is off to the left. In any case, F1 and F2 are mapped to brightness and so on. You can see all the different function here. F11 and F12 also do volume up and down. So if I press it down here, you'll see that it mutes. If I press it here, it adjusts the volume, and as I toggle the jog dial back and forth, I can adjust the different volume levels for my PC. If I click here on the spacebar key, it says that system keys cannot be modified. These are forbidden. So for example, the Windows key, the spacebar key, the arrows keys, and the function key cannot be overridden for behaviors in this particular setting. And of course, the P key, these are the ones that are pre-mapped by Epomaker for the behaviors I've discussed earlier. This key here will allow you to toggle between the different RGB modes. 1 to 5 are used for different types of connectivity, 1 to 3 being Bluetooth, 4 being the Wi-Fi dongle, and so on. Now, if we return here back to the main settings, you can see that there's also an other settings tab. This is interesting because here you can go and adjust the key sensitivity. It's very nice to see that we actually have adjustable keys here on a budget keyboard like this. Obviously, I would leave it at the default setting, but to have this type of ability, what we're seeing now with Hall effect keyboard keys or Hall effect switches that are very, very pricey because you can adjust the electrical actuation level. This is a very nice and a very promising feature to see from a more budget offering such as the Epomaker TH80 Pro. It can also detect the OS automatically. Not quite sure what this behavior does. Perhaps there's some layers that are mapped already for functions on here. Right now it says Windows. I assume that if I would connect it to Mac, it would say Command and Option, perhaps. You can also adjust the timeouts here and sleep modes for the wireless connectivity using the dongle at 2.4 gigahertz or with Bluetooth to preserve battery life overall. And of course, at the top here, you see an indicator which shows you the current battery level of this device. And if you make some things that you're not too happy with, you can hit that reset button down here. It'll reset. And it takes a moment to load, so just give it a second here for loading your default settings. Also, you can add new configurations here, which could be a complete customization. So it's a very feature-rich application. You could certainly spend a lot of time here customizing this keyboard to your heart's content. One gripe I do have about this software is there isn't a lot of self-explanatory things here. For example, key settings and this combination here. I don't know what combination does. If I hover over it, I'm not getting any help context or contextual help either. I don't know what these 4 buttons and this enter button means. Is this activating the on-screen keyboard? This is just showing me these keys here. Or am I pressing these to activate some sort of shortcut? So I would like to see some more explanations or perhaps info icons or some hover overs to know what these things actually do. First, we'll begin here with a standard typing test using the typingcat.com. All right, and to summarize here, I think this has been a great effort. This is a great keyboard. It gives you certainly the ability to have good typing experience, even if you're coding and typing non-standard other than words and typical character phrases and sentences that you would be for a typist or for writing a book, etc. We can see here that programming with JavaScript, I was able to get up to speed to 45 words a minute without much practice. 271 characters with about 96% accuracy. So certainly great keyboard for typing and also for programmers and coders alike. All right, so there we have it. I think, in my opinion, this is a fantastic product. Epomaker TH80 Pro certainly hits home here. And what's most promising about this device that this is usually $100 US. Currently on their Black Friday sales, this can be had for $50 US only. That is an amazing price for an entry-level mechanical keyboard that has a really nice build. It's a very strong build. It comes with pre-lubed switches, these Plink Flamingos or the Budge Riggers, which are a little bit more with a little bit heavier of a switch. It comes with these supply tools. You get a free extra set of keycaps here, a free extra bunch of switches to replace in case you damage one or something happens. And overall, the typing sound is pretty fantastic. You've got RGB effects here. You've got tri-mode connectivity, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi using a dongle or wired connectivity. And you've got some good software here that has tons and tons of customization options. So if you're looking to get into the keyboard space, mechanical keyboard space, or if you're looking for something for as a typist or as a programmer, I think the TH80 Pro certainly hits a lot of the marks just right. So I love this product from Epomaker. In fact, I've adopted this as my daily driver keyboard. I'd love to see more Epomaker products in the future. They have such a great variety, such a selection of keycaps and these are all, because these are all double shot PBT with dye sub printing, these keys will last a long time without wearing out. The legends will not wear out, and you won't get those oily fingerprints that you'd get on these keyboards. I had a Logitech 915 TKL, much more expensive, twice as expensive as this actually, on sale and those keyboard keys got very shiny because they were only ABS plastic. Very disappointed. I sold off that keyboard because I didn't like that look. And this legend, the combination of everything that's on offer here, I'm very pleased with what Epomaker has been able to put together. All right, that's all we have to say here for today for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Please leave me a comment below. What do you think of these more mechanical keyboards that are in the budget category below $100 or $150? US. Are you in the market for a mechanical keyboard? Do you own an Epomaker? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.